Good day and welcome, friends. It's me, Zero Option, your boy with all the Bolo knowledge. Once again, here to regale you with information about the greatest warriors of mankind. Nope, not those little leggy buggers. The real big bad boys. The real undisputed king of the battlefield, the Bolo tank. But before we get into it, YouTube throttles content like mine. If it's not corporate sponsored, if it's not all the time family friendly, it's not recommended by the algorithm. So I'm going to ask everyone nicely who's watching this video, if you enjoy gaming, sci-fi universe reviews, podcasts about gaming, tech, and whatever crazy thing we just decide to yammer on about, then you're in luck. Then you need to click that big red subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, sit back and enjoy this old tanker and his vet buddies take the piss. And hell, if I manage to hit just 500 subscribers, I'll narrate and record the entire Bolo library, complete with sound effects and whole 9 yards. You know, just for you guys. How's that for motivation to share me around? Get that sub count up. So with all that self-shilling out of the way, let's jump into it. Continuing the series I've started on here, today we're going to be looking at the pre-Concordiat of man, pre-collapse Bolos. So what is meant by pre-collapse in the Bolo universe is exactly how you think it would be in real life. Before the Concordiat rose to eminence in the galaxy, crushing all before them under the tread of the mighty Bolos, it was old Earth, jewel of the Sol system, the shining beacon of humanity for the galaxy to marvel at. Now in universe, it's not mentioned what caused the collapse of the old nation states of Earth, so I'm just gonna make something up, really. I think I'm gonna make up they had their version of 2020 somewhere around their version of 2015. So between the virus that shall not be named, murder hornets, and everyone blaming everyone else for everything, stuff just went sideways in the most spectacular of fashion. If you don't like my world building, tough! That's my video. Honestly though, there really isn't a whole lot of information about the era, as the original authors chose not to focus on then in the timeline of the book, as opposed to the grim darkness of the far future where there's only... I gotta stop doing that, wrong franchise, but you get what I'm saying. You don't craft a universe specifically populated by autonomous murder tanks with personality and do not focus on their fighting prowess. That's like going to a furry convention and not pointing out the spine-snapping levels of cringe and degeneracy. Okay, so first things first, what are Bolos? Well, in universe, Bolos are the multi-kiloton, self-aware, planet-breaking tanks with more firepower than entire armies. The mere whiff of a single Bolo entering the battlefield is more than enough to loosen every xeno-sphincter within 12 cubic parsecs, let alone what a regiment of these monsters will do. But before we get there, we should show how we got there. So Bolos are generally organized into 3 categories, or 4 if you're an ultra-purist like me. All of the information about these stupendous war machines come directly from the technical history of the Bolo, found in Book 3, The Triumphant, and Bolo! The compendium that was re-released a couple of years ago. So if you don't agree, tough, take it up with the authors. Everything spearing from my facehole is literal canon, the 4 categories, pre-collapse, what we'll be looking at today, so I won't get too much into a description on that. Post-collapse, pre-autonomous, where they really first came into their own on a galactic scale. Not quite fully sapient yet, not until the introduction of the Mark 23B 075 Nike. Number 3, post-collapse, fully autonomous, when psychotronic circuitry allowed for the development of fully sapient AI to control their war machines. And 4, post-Concordiat. The Mark 34 is the only known Bolo in canon with this class. There's only 2 stories. One of them is in, I believe, Book 5, and the other one is called Old Soldiers, a standalone Bolo novel. We're nearly 4.5 minutes in. I guess we should go ahead and look at the Bolos like I promised. Alright, so let's look at pre-collapse Bolos. There are 3 marks available to us, Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3 respectively. How original, right? Now the Mark 1 is just real simple. It's an upgraded Abrams Leopard Challenger tank, clocking it at a mighty chunky 150 metric tons. Sorry, we gotta use metric tons. The whole novel, the whole series of novels is in metric, so no freedom units here. Which is almost double the current weight of main battle tanks of the class. It's still able to achieve 80 km/h road speeds, 30-40 kilometers off-road cross-country. Now this tank, upgraded, had advanced Chobham depleted uranium armor, advanced anti-ballistic missile, and anti-personnel countermeasures in the form of computer-controlled Gatling gun turrets, the main battery being replaced with a 150mm gun firing an armor-piercing, discarding sabot, fin-stabilized, long rod penetrator dart capable of defeating any known armor. It took 7 takes to get that right. While this armor and gun was impressive, it still needed a full 4-man crew, just like modern tanks. So while it's a nice upgrade, we're not quite AI-powered xenocidal scales of war just yet. So let's look at something just a little bit closer to what we're after. The Mark II. This is where we see the form of the Bolo really start to take shape and come on to its own, like a small moving metal mountain. The main armament was maintained, and as it was still capable of defeating all known armors of the time. The computers were upgraded to shrink the size of the crew from 4 to the ubiquitous 1. Allowing for streamlined data input that would become almost standard on all Bolo marks for close to millennia. They also got the introduction of the precursor of the infinite repeater systems, in the addition of side-mounted 2x2 light-mounted railguns and counter-missile systems, as well as the first application of Durachrome armor at 10mm thick, which could stop most known threat vectors of the era short of a point-blank shot of another Bolo's main weapon or contact nuclear detonation. Durachrome, as I've stated in other videos, doesn't have any real-world analog or description of its makeup or properties, other than its incredible ability to absorb and shed heat and kinetic energy in seeming violation of the laws of thermodynamics and materials science. So we're kind of left to our own devices to assume its molecular makeup. In all likelihood, its only potential real-world analog is a single crystal polyalloy comprised of various metals and single layers formed into a single crystal structure, allowing for greater strength and heat dissipation, and combination of various alloys giving the best overall abilities while avoiding the obvious issues with standard metallurgical polycrystal alloys, mainly fracturing along the crystalline structure. Power is derived from ionic batteries powered by an ultra-efficient petroleum engine, similar to diesel-electric submarines or train engines of the era. If it should fail, the batteries could power the vehicle for a full 12 hours in combat before failing, as well as it had the ability to draw power from tertiary sources, such as local power grids, for long-term readiness periods in guarding an area. So basically, yeah, it's an up-armored Tesla Roadster with an NRA membership. And finally, the Mark III. Originally supposed to be a companion support vehicle to the Mark II, it became more famous for addition of most of the accessories that became synonymous with Bolos in later eras. The infinite repeater systems, multiple tracks for weight distribution, 4 tracks to start with instead of 2, and the introduction of mobile indirect fire systems. This turned the Bolo just from the role of a main battle tank into the role of a mobile fire support platform, as well as an advanced armor line breaking unit. So keeping most of the advances included in the Mark II in terms of computer systems and armor systems, only increasing the armor thickness to 20mm of Durachrome, again capable of defeating all but perfect point-blank Bolo shots and contact nuclear attacks, as well as the addition of solar film for recharging the batteries in case of a local grid failure or incomplete grids to latch onto. We see the deletion of the main gun turret in favor of a turreted indirect fire howitzer and light VLS missile system. The crew size moves from 1 to 2, so there's the inclusion of an electronic warfare officer to monitor countermeasures and radar systems. This Mark was also capable of defeating all threats of the era, from bands of techno-barbarians to concerted ICBM attacks on free city states. And it's the only one to truly first look and behave as a Bolo as we understand it in the canon. So with that, guys and gals, my Bolo fanatics and friends, those are the 3 main Bolos during the pre-collapse era. While not much information is provided about them, they provide a very real foundation for what the defenders of humanity were to evolve into. Better, tireless, incorruptible, ever stoic in the eyes of their charges. The Bolo stands as the vanguard and final line of defense as humanity walked among the stars. The guardians of humanity not only need to be needed, but the ones we deserve, for the honor of the regiment and the Dinochrome Brigade. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash that subscribe and like button. Peace out.